It's so great to have a chance to share with you all for just a few minutes. I love FCCI. I'm a big fan. I don't know, Doug, do you Twitter? Yeah. You Twitter. So I need to be a fan and follow you, see what Doug's doing, because I haven't yet. But I'm a big fan of FCCI. Walt, do you Twitter? No, sir. I would like the thought of thinking about what Walt might Twitter about. But so to have a chance to share with you for a few moments is a real joy for me. And I'm going to share a little bit about a journey that we've been on. Before I start, I have to tell you something about this name, a journey about beyond business. Some of the ideas that I'm going to be talking to you about, when we developed them, we named it more than business. That's what we called it. It's not a great name, but it's what we came up with. And when I saw the program and saw that it said beyond business, my first thought was, hey, that's not what it's called. But my second thought was, hey, that's much better. I like that. Beyond business. So like a good entrepreneur, I ran out and grabbed the URL for beyondbusiness.org. So if our journey ever takes us there, hopefully you weren't planning to use that. We might be able to cut a deal if you would like to. So we're going to take a little bit of a journey. I'm going to kind of walk you through a map of some of our thinking over the past few years, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. Every journey, well, this journey, like most great journeys, begins in the bathroom. In this case, it began in the bathroom of a restaurant where I saw a sign above the toilet that said, "Please jiggle the handle after flushing." Now, we know what's going on here. Now, I don't know how you respond when you see a sign like that, but what I do is I think, yes, I could jiggle that handle. Or you could just fix the toilet. Right? I won't tell you whether I jiggled it or not. But we see these we see these situations all over the place. We find them in our lives. We find problems or areas that aren't quite working right, and instead of solving them, we come up with a workaround. We do this a lot. I bet you can think of some at home. Maybe your wife can think of some at home. You see them in your business. This is the worst case where a company was asking me to do a workaround, a problem that they haven't solved. But there was something in our business a number of years ago that I wasn't pleased with. It was a problem, and it was this whole area of business tithes. So let me set this up a little bit. My wife Sandy and I had worked quite hard, I think, over a number of years to build the discipline of personal tithing into our lives. That's not easy. And I respect any of you who have done that because it's a challenge. And I went through years of wrestling with God about tithing on net revenue, net income, net personal income after taxes or gross. And, he wasn't that concerned about it, but I ended up with a 10% gross personal tithe that we've disciplined ourselves to do. The business, however, like many of you from the poll that was shown a little while ago, we didn't do any tithing in the business whatsoever. Well, then I met these folks at FCCI. Now, these folks have some wacky ideas. A number of years ago, I started hearing ideas like, well, Bob, you don't really own that business. That business is really not there for your personal amusement. It's not there to fill your pockets or your bank account. You are a steward of that business. And I confess that I haven't always been the best steward of the business that God has entrusted me with. But over time, as these ideas began to take root in my life, I had this desire to tithe beyond my personal income and move something to the business level, although I wasn't sure what. So started where many people might start, and I started looking at, well, what if we tithe 10% of profits in the business? Well, this was a big challenge for me as a small business manager, leader, because I'm sure you probably know this, but profits do not always equal cash, right? Especially if you're in a small business, you're investing profits back in, you're growing rapidly. Very likely, or you can end up at the end of the year with profits and no cash. Now, I'm sure that most of you are better at this than me. You might not run into that situation, and there are certainly ways to deal with it. But it was a struggle for me. There was another thing I didn't like, and it was the tension between these ideas that a good business decision might reduce profits for a period of time. It might increase profits long term. Maybe that's a good tension, I don't know, to have. But I didn't like the idea that a good business decision might reduce my giving. So, and whatever I tried, for years I ended up unsatisfied with the results. It just didn't seem to work out. I didn't get I was giving just a few percent as it turned out. So I stopped jiggling the handle on this thing and tried to envision what might this look like if we really solved this problem. Very quickly, and I really love what Mark said about praying for wisdom and God giving that answer. You know, in James, it's a promise. And elsewhere in the Bible, we pray for wisdom. There's no question about it. God will provide wisdom. It's a promise. And out of this process came a number of ideas that began to sketch this in for me a little bit. Now, I apologize that some of you in the back will not be able to see this. I didn't realize that there was going to be such a deep room. So I'll read this to you. But there were about 5 things that came to me. One was that whatever solution we came up with, we didn't want it to be based on profits. It would work with the normal cash flow cycles of our particular business, a small service business. It would instill giving as a part of our corporate culture. So I didn't want this to just be something that one leader did up at the top, but I wanted giving to be instilled as a corporate value. We wanted to leverage our corporate capabilities, our unique abilities. Didn't want to just have this based on cash. And hopefully, whatever we came up with, very importantly, would not just engage 1 or 2 people in the company, but would engage everyone. So this was kind of how it mapped out in my mind. And out of this process came a very simple notion that we called more than business. And at first it was very simple. We would take 1% of gross revenue and set it aside. Now 1%, I can see from the poll that some of you are doing much more than that, which is awesome. It's not a unique idea. This came to me from Kent Humphreys, I think is the one who told me that that's what they did in their business. But we would put a little bit of a different twist on it. We would give not only cash, but services in kind. We would take services, our core capabilities, unique abilities as a company, and we would donate those at the cost to us, so the retail value of those services would be greater to whoever was receiving that gift. And finally, we would add a more than business committee to help manage this process. So this was the simple layout that came out of this brainstorming process. And a number of years ago, I think about 2.5 years ago, we put this into action, tried to get this going. We've made mistakes, we've had bumps in the road, but over time it has developed. And the More Than Business Committee, a group of about 5 to 8 people who meet regularly to talk about this, to map out the structure and the process, to figure out who do we want to give to, it has done a tremendous job of helping guide this process and develop mission statements and charter documents, things like that. We've decided this year that we would add another level of structure to the program and clarify what our objectives are, what kind of programs we want to give to, what type of organizations, and how we really want this to work a little bit more. And the committee decided, one, that one of our primary focal points would be to support staff member initiatives. We don't want to just give money. We want to encourage our staff members to give and to go and to do themselves. And so this program provides scholarships for any staff member who wants to go on a mission trip. And we've had staff members go to Africa to work in orphanages. We've had them build homes in New Orleans. We've supported all kinds of efforts in Belize. They've done food bank drives with the food bank in North Carolina, all different types of things. So that's the first thing. Secondly, we want to support a specific cause. And so our program with our staff members kind of goes in and out of different places and does different things. But we also wanted an effort that was a little bit more sustained and that went in and maybe worked with a group for multiple years to have a greater impact. So that's the second thing that we want to do. And then this year we added a third component to the program, which I'm really excited about, and it is the concept of multiplication. We're a small company. Our 1% More Than Business or Beyond Business program this year was about $100,000. For us, that's a great amount of money. We're excited to be a part of doing that. But in the scheme of things, in the scope of things, it's really quite small. But imagine if we could connect with one other company who also would be willing to do something in the area of 1% of profits, or another company and another. Imagine if we could connect with 5 companies giving 1% of profits in a number of different ways that worked for them. Well, now all of a sudden we have an opportunity to multiply this effort. So that's very, very important to us, and that's really why I'm here today, is to talk to you about this in the hopes that 1 or 2 of you will say, Bob, I like this idea. I'd like to think about it. Can we talk on the phone and converse about this? Maybe get together, share ideas, see what works and what doesn't work, and improve this process. FCCI, for the past few years, has been a majority benefactor of this program. This year, about half of our More Than Business fund goes to FCCI to support this event and other things that we do. Before I wrap this up, I want to get very real with you for just a few moments. Because, and maybe some of you can relate to this, but the last 18 months have been the most difficult, most challenging times that I can remember in my 27 years in business. It has been a very, very rough period for us. I know it has been for many of you. Our staff, we've cut our staff by about 25% over the past 18 months through some cuts and through attrition. And in a small company, that is very challenging. I think it's challenging in any company, but when it's a small service company, it's very traumatic. At the beginning of this year, I started thinking, and this is a very important question. We have all these grand ideas about giving, but is it right, is it responsible to do this program when we're projecting revenue to be down 10% this year, profits potentially to be non-existent? See, this is where it all gets very, very real, doesn't it? Where you come up against reality and all your grand notions, your noble ideas come right up against a boulder. Here's what I did. At the beginning of the year, I had a chance to go on a mission trip with my youngest son. I was praying like Mark sat down in his office, slammed the door. I slammed the door on my way to Europe. And I said, God, I need an answer. I need to know what we should do. And while I was in Europe, I met two gentlemen. Both were ex-baseball players. One was the manager of a large, successful Mercedes-Benz dealership who early this year, one day out of the blue, his boss came in and said, "You're gone." And it was about that quick. The other one had realized his dream, had made it to the major leagues as a pitcher. And then in his first year, his arm blew out. And he watched that career go down the drain. And these gentlemen shared with me their stories, and they shared with me how God had blessed them in adversity, how God had taken those events and turned them for incredible blessing in their life. And they shared with me their life verses. One of them, let us not become weary of doing good. Folks, I was weary. I was weary, top to bottom, inside to out. And here these gentlemen were telling me, don't become weary of doing good. This verse goes on to say, especially to the family of God. And the other one, these are common verses. You all know these. Forgetting what is behind, but pressing ahead to the goal. Isn't it wonderful when God takes a verse you've heard your whole life and then adds power to it? And I knew that the message out of that time for me was, do not give up, do not become weary, press on. And that's what I committed to do. So as I close, let me just ask you a couple questions. Are you jiggling the handle in this area? I suspect from the responses that came up to the poll that maybe some of you are. Is your tithing in the business not working the way that you would like? Are you not satisfied with the results that you're getting? If you are, those of you tithing more than 10% of profits, that's incredible. That's awesome. God bless you. But if you're not happy, let me ask you this. Would you consider a beyond business tithe of some kind? Would you give it some thought? Will you consider it? Because we are looking for like-minded companies. We're looking for 1, 2, 3, maybe 5. Oh, out of this meeting, if 5 people could say, Bob, I'd really like to talk to you about this. I'd like to pursue some idea in this regard. Or maybe you're already doing something like this. I would love to hear from you. We'd like to set up a telephone conference, maybe get some companies together, start the beyondbusiness.org website where we can share ideas and results and things that are working and grow this idea and really multiply this effort. So I thank you very, very much. I've taken you on a little bit of a map, kind of walked you around some different ideas here. But our journey is really just beginning. Our journey is not over. It's just beginning because we are committed by the power and grace of Jesus Christ to go beyond business and to make a positive, eternal impact in the world. Thanks so much.